I was working on a script for dolor gravitational, which translates as gravitational pain, when I was invited to be part of Unit London's On Computer exhibition. I remember one afternoon, at that time, I was watching a documentary about the last work of Stephen Hawking. Hawking and three other scientists were trying to find out a solution to the information paradox. That's a paradox that appears when the general predictions of quantum mechanics and general relativity are combined. They come up with a solution where some no-rest mass low energy particles leave traces of information outside the event horizon. And they name this solution software. While I was watching that, when they say software, the immediate visual and emotive image that was in my mind was that of a hand gently moving through soft hair. Such a tender gesture. I found there like a balance between the devastating power of a black hole, the most devastating force in the universe, and the fragile, tender bonds of affection. This is a terrain I wanted to explore. I often find myself creating poetic connections of disparate elements, natural phenomena, and human experiences. Sometimes this works as a lens for introspection. It's like dissecting my own emotional terrain or understanding societal behavior. When I'm working on a new piece or a new series, I always start with the concept. I have this idea in my mind, it's a question, it's something that bothers me, an obsession. It starts in my mind and later I might write something, some sentences, a couple of paragraphs about it. I research, I read, I probably do some mind maps or diagrams, but at that point I have no idea on how the piece should look. I have no visual cues so far, not at all. If the piece is an audio reactive or an installation or a live show, anything audio related, I start working on the soundscapes. Still, no visual manifestation yet, nothing, not even in my mind. Sometimes I might have something, but it's more about the other senses first. Once I have a rough base on the soundscapes, I start sketching on paper. And while I do that, I'm listening to the soundscapes. This helps me keep the concept in sight. Of course, if it is not audio related, I skip that part and jump directly into the sketching part. It could take 2 hours, 2 weeks, maybe 2 months sketching before I start coding. I prefer not to start coding too early because that could drive me away from the core idea and I get lost in the middle. It has happened before. For the soundscapes, I wanted to have two different components. A melodic line, little dreamy, soft, tender, trippy melody, but also something noisy, harsh, destructive, a huge sub-layer, low-frequency bass. I work on these two, one on top of the other, and try different mixes, changing levels, like tweaking the frequencies, but this wasn't working. There was something out in here, like I couldn't match these two on the same soundscape. I decided then to start sketching, and I did it sometimes with the melodic layers, sometimes with the soup drawn, and sometimes with them trying in different mixes. This is when I realized the dynamics involved in an attraction paradox. I imagine myself being attracted to this strong, destructive force, and then thoughts come into my mind, some about the good moments we have lived together, and that pulls me towards the event horizon. But sometimes these are painful memories that push me away from that imminent ending. Some are also emotions regarding projects, regarding hopes about the future, and that attracts me to go inside that hole. But then come the rational thoughts of the obvious catastrophic finale that make me want to avoid any approximation. Those are the forces steering our souls apart on these complex relationships. I visualized these thoughts coming in flashes as we are trying to escape that enormous gravity pull. Is that debate in our mind that we see in attraction paradox? There is a noise, a pearly noise to be technically specific. That pearly noise is ruling the shifting of the soundscapes and the different thoughts and emotions. I have 8 different layers where I pour those concepts. The pearly noise selects the layer that is shown. The same happens with the melodic and sub-bass drum layers. It shifts from one to the other, and that shifting is controlled by that pearly noise. How do I picture attraction paradox being displayed? I think it is a very versatile piece. You can certainly have a 66-second video loop displayed on a 4K screen. You can also have a high-resolution direct UV print on aluminum composite. To me, print is an output that I like, but for this digital piece, I made this wooden box. I sanded, I sealed, and sanded again, and laser engraved an attraction paradox symbol on top of it. Made some cushioning inside, and all of that just to pack and send the SD card. So it's like having a physical piece for the digital piece. But to me, attraction paradox will excel as an interactive installation. You could put 3 screens side by side, but with a different pearly noise seed, and the soundscapes will shift, will pan from one display to the other in an ever ongoing sequence. I will also add a proximity sensor that will adjust the threshold of the layer you are shifting. So something like the closer you are, bad memories and thoughts dominate, but when you are far, the beautiful emotions emerge, keeping you in that continuous emotional debate. Why the odd pricing? I don't think it's odd. It totally makes sense. There are 4 tiers, depending on what attraction paradox format you want, and all 4 are based on pi. 2 pi, pi, half pi. Pi is present in the first law of black hole mechanics, and pi is an irrational number. Love is irrational too, at least when you're facing an attraction paradox.